Imagine you're sitting in a crowded cafe in downtown Austin, Texas. Your latte is still steaming on the table. Your phone vibrates. You think it's just a regular call, maybe a client or a coworker. But no, it's your father's voice, cold, emotionless, cutting through your earbuds like a blade. Emma, you're out of Carter Family Builders. Don't come to the office. Don't call back. 15 seconds. Just 15 seconds to watch the entire world you built collapse. 7 years of dedication, millions of dollars in contracts, the pride of a family legacy, gone like it never existed. What would you do when your own family turns against you? Scream? Cry? Or just sit there, numb like I did? I'm Emma Carter, 29 years old, formerly Executive Vice President of Carter Family Builders, a construction company I had eaten, slept, and breathed since I was a kid. I poured sweat, blood, and heart into every single project, from sleek modern homes to sustainable commercial developments that helped build our name in Texas. But in that moment, sitting in that cafe, I wasn't ambitious Emma Carter anymore. I was just a girl with a shaking phone in her hand, watching her world fall apart through a screen. I replied to my father's message with a single word: understood. Not because I agreed, but because it was the only way I had left to hold on to a shred of dignity. Outside, Austin kept buzzing. People were laughing, ordering drinks, typing on laptops. But for me, time had stopped. I had built skyscrapers, but now, the very foundation of my life was crumbling. Who was behind this? Why would my father, the same man who once called me the future of Carter, do this? And the worst part, I never saw it coming. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about how you get up when your own family pushes you off the edge. If you've ever felt abandoned, betrayed, stay with me. Because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of a wild, dramatic journey, and ultimately, of freedom. I grew up among sawdust and hammer strikes in Austin, Texas, where Carter Family Builders wasn't just a company, it was the bloodline of my family. From the moment I could walk, I was trailing behind my father, James Carter, across job sites. He'd point at rising timber frames and say, "Emma, everything starts with a strong foundation." By age 10, I could read blueprints. By 14, I was helping my mom audit the books over summer breaks. Building wasn't just a job, it was in my DNA. It was the dream I was raised on. Carter Family Builders was born from my father's old pickup truck, a beat-up toolbox, and an iron will. My mother, Eleanor, used to say he had concrete in his veins. And me? I wanted to carry on that legacy, but in my own way, with sustainable, environmentally friendly buildings that made Austin cleaner, greener, and better. When it came time to choose a college, I didn't hesitate. I enrolled at the University of Texas, double majored in business administration and sustainable construction design. I graduated valedictorian, stood on stage to deliver the commencement speech, and turned down 3 job offers from some of the biggest names in construction. Why? Because my heart belonged to Carter Family Builders. When I told my dad I was coming home to work with the family, he pretended to be surprised, but I saw the pride light up his eyes. "Are you sure, Emma? Those are big opportunities," he said. But we both knew what I was born to do. I started as a project manager, refusing to lean on the Carter name. I arrived at job sites before dawn and left after dark. The crews respected me, not because I was the boss's daughter, but because I knew the work, and I was right there beside them with rolled-up sleeves. But what I didn't know is that while I was pouring myself into our family legacy, cracks were already forming, not on the job sites, but right inside the family itself. Everything started to shift on an autumn morning in Austin, when the air still carried the scent of coffee and freshly cut grass. I walked into the offices of Carter Family Builders, ready to present a plan to expand the use of sustainable materials in our upcoming projects. I had spent an entire month preparing, running the numbers, building the slide deck, because I knew green buildings weren't just a trend, they were the future. They brought major profits and would make the Carter name shine across Texas. But just as I began presenting during our quarterly meeting, my father, James Carter, glanced at his watch and interrupted. "Emma, let's put this aside for now. We have more urgent matters."
Urgent?
He didn't explain, but his eyes were cold, so different from the man who once proudly patted my shoulder. Then I began noticing the closed-door meetings. My father and my brother, Liam, started having lunches with Victor Hayes, a self-declared strategic advisor and my father's college buddy. They would stop talking every time I walked near. Just father-son conversations. My dad waved it off, but I felt it being pushed aside. My decisions started getting reversed. The recycled materials supplier I had vetted? Contract canceled. The marketing campaign I built for the community project? Indefinitely postponed. Every time I asked, I got vague replies. We're reevaluating the strategy. Reevaluating what? I was the executive vice president, but it felt like I was being erased from the very company I had poured my soul into. I started to wonder, was the family legacy I loved ever meant for me? Or was something darker happening right under my nose? If you've ever felt like you're being pushed out of your own game, you'll understand that feeling, like standing on quicksand, not knowing when it's going to swallow you whole. In the days that followed, the Carter Family Builders office in Austin began to feel like a chessboard, one where I wasn't invited to play. I watched my father, James, and my brother, Liam, laughing with Victor Hayes in meetings I was never told about. Victor, with his silver hair and rehearsed smile, acted like he owned the place, flipping through our contracts, questioning our clients as if he were in charge. And then I found out Victor hadn't come alone. His son, Noah Hayes, started showing up, introduced as a promising new recruit. A recruit? They walked Noah through the entire office, even into my own workspace, as if he had already been chosen to replace someone. I confronted my father. Who is Noah to this company? Why wasn't I told anything? He just replied, Victor has experience, Emma. He knows how to take us to the next level. The next level? I had doubled the company's revenue in 5 years, and now I felt like the extra piece left off the blueprint. Then my mother, Eleanor, pulled me aside during a family dinner. She held my hand, her voice trembling. Be careful, Emma. Your father is being manipulated. Something's not right. She didn't say more, but her eyes were filled with fear, like she was carrying a secret too heavy to share. I started noticing the smaller things. Liam was spreading rumors that I was trying to take over the company, that my sustainable projects were costing us money. Lies. But they were dripping into my father's ears, and I saw it in the way he looked at me. Not with pride, but suspicion. Day by day, I felt the invisible wall rising between me and my family. Someone was building a plan to push me out, and I didn't know how to stop it. Have you ever felt everything slipping away with no way to scream? I've been there. And the real storm, it was only just beginning. April 17th in Austin started like any other day. Clear skies, sunlight glinting off the busy streets. I drove to our new construction site, my head buzzing with excitement about a meeting with a major client, Horizon Developers. I had spent an entire week preparing, carrying with me a detailed proposal for a LEED Platinum-certified sustainable office complex. The meeting went flawlessly. The CEO of Horizon shook my hand and said, Emma, your passion is exactly what we need. Carter Family Builders will be our partner. I left with a beaming smile, feeling like I had just landed $1 million contract, enough to create jobs for dozens of people. I called my father to share the news, but it went straight to voicemail. No big deal, I thought. I'd tell him when I got back to the office. To celebrate, I stopped at a cafe on South Congress, ordered a large latte, and sat in my usual corner. The phone buzzed. My father's name lit up. I picked up, ready to share the good news, but the call went directly to voicemail. Strange. I tapped to listen, still smiling. Then his voice came through, dry and emotionless. Emma, the board met this morning. We've decided to restructure. You are removed from Carter Family Builders. Your access has been revoked. Do not come to the office. Do not call back. This decision is final. 15 seconds. My world collapsed in 15 seconds. 7 years of 70-hour work weeks. Every deal I brought in, every dream I built. All gone, like a cruel joke. I sat there, hands trembling, phone still pressed to my ear, heart pounding like it might shatter. The cafe buzzed with noise, people laughing, placing orders, but I felt like I had slipped into another dimension. I opened my messages and typed a single word. Understood. Not because I accepted it, but because it was the only way to hold on to some dignity before everything fell apart. How could my family do this to me? And what was waiting on the other side? If you've ever been betrayed so deeply that you couldn't breathe, then you know exactly what that moment feels like. After the text message understood to my father, I left the cafe on South Congress, walking like a ghost beneath the Austin sky. Rain began to fall, but I didn't bother to open my umbrella. The world kept spinning around me, but I was stuck inside a nightmare. 7 years of dedication to Carter Family Builders, sleepless nights finalizing contracts, firm handshakes with clients, all turned to dust. I tried logging into the company system from my phone, but the screen flashed. Access denied. Company credit card? Blocked when I tried to buy another coffee. Office keycard? Useless. They hadn't just fired me, they erased me, as if I had never been part of the company at all. My phone buzzed nonstop. Clients like Horizon developers messaged, confused. Emma, what's going on? Who's handling the project now? Co-workers called, voices filled with concern. Where are you? They said you resigned. I stared at the screen, fingers scrolling through the messages, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What could I say? That my own father had kicked me out of the family company through a voicemail? That I didn't even get a proper explanation? I powered down the phone, shoved it into my bag, feeling like my heart had powered down with it. I drove past the buildings I helped build, the Westlake offices, the Riverside apartments, each one a knife reminding me of everything I had lost. The reputation I had built over years was now in question. Who was behind this? My brother Liam? The scheming consultant Victor Hayes? I didn't know. I only knew that I had become invisible in the story of my own life. Have you ever felt like you disappeared from your life and no one even noticed? I was there, and it felt like dying in slow motion. // after drifting like a ghost through Austin, I knew I had to do something before I drowned completely in darkness. I couldn't keep driving past old job sites or staring at a blank phone, waiting for an apology from my father. I reached out to Dr. Sarah Nguyen, a therapist a friend had once mentioned. Sitting in her small office, with soft light filtering through the window and the faint scent of lavender in the air, I told her everything. My father's voicemail, Liam's betrayal, the way I'd been erased from Carter Family Builders. But what choked me up the most wasn't losing the job. It was realizing I didn't know who I was without the company. I've lived my whole life trying to be Emma Carter, heir to the family legacy, I told Sarah, my voice breaking. Now what? Who am I? Sarah helped me look deeper. Through our sessions, I began to see that my identity had been tightly woven into the name Carter, into job sites, into my father's approval. Losing that wasn't just a career loss, it was a collapse of the framework that defined me. Sarah encouraged me to journal, to write down things that made me happy outside of work. I wrote about morning runs along Lady Bird Lake, the joy of scrolling Reddit's r/Austin, and my dream of building green homes for underserved communities. Slowly, I began to see another Emma, not the daughter of Carter Family Builders, but a woman with her own passions, her own strength. Therapy didn't erase the pain, but it gave me a compass to start finding myself again. Have you ever had to ask yourself who you really are when everything familiar falls away? That's where I began rebuilding, not with concrete, but with the fractured pieces of my own heart. // in the days after Carter Family Builders erased me from their world, Austin no longer felt like home. I moved from a sleek downtown apartment to a tiny studio in East Austin, where car horns and the smell of old paint replaced the shimmering views of Lady Bird Lake. My savings drained faster than I expected, and the 3-month severance from the company, the price of my silence, sat in my bank account like a bitter reminder. I sat on the apartment floor, surrounded by unopened boxes, holding a bottle of cheap wine, scrolling through old photos on my laptop. Groundbreaking ceremonies, hugs with my father, the smiles of our crew after completing projects. They were all just digital memories now, like scenes from a film I once watched, not something I had actually lived. I stopped at the photo from the Westlake groundbreaking, my father with his arm around me, both of us in hard hats holding gold shovels. He was beaming, calling me the future of Carter. I believed him then, but now I wonder, was that smile real? Or had he been planning to push me out all along? Each photo felt like a cut, making me question everything I once trusted. Who was I without the company? Without my family? The phone stayed silent, no text from Mom, no calls from Liam. No one in the construction industry responded to my emails. I had hit rock bottom, not just jobless, but hopeless. Have you ever felt like you're in free fall, unsure if there's even a bottom to hit? I've been there, in that cramped apartment, with a bottle of wine and the shattered pieces of myself, thinking maybe this was the end. But sometimes, the deepest low is where you first see the light. // In a tiny apartment in East Austin, in the middle of days filled with cheap wine and old memories, an unexpected phone call changed everything. The phone buzzed, and an unknown number appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was an old client or a wrong number. but I picked up and the voice on the other end said, "Emma Carter? This is Olivia Bennett from Bennett Community Works in Houston." Olivia, I remembered her. 2 years ago, we worked together on an affordable housing project, an apartment complex in San Antonio that I was proud to have completed on budget with a sustainable design. "I heard about what happened at Carter Family Builders," Olivia said, straight to the point. "I don't care about family drama. What I know is you're the best person I've ever worked with. I have a project, a community center in San Antonio, tight budget, high sustainability goals. I need you." I hesitated. The non-compete agreement with Carter Family Builders still hovered over me like a blade. "Olivia, I'm not sure I'm allowed," I replied. She laughed. "I checked with legal. Different market, not Carter's client. You'll be a consultant, not an employee. Are you in?" My heart pounded. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of light. Not vague hope, but a real opportunity. I thought of the sleepless nights, of how I once believed I'd never get back up. But Olivia's voice felt like it was pulling me out of the quicksand. "Give me a day to think," I said, but deep down, I already knew the answer. Have you ever been thrown a lifeline just when you thought you were about to drown? I grabbed that rope, not knowing where it would take me, but for the first time, I wanted to find out. After Olivia's call, I sat in my cramped East Austin apartment, gazing out the window at the blinking city lights. For the first time in months, I didn't feel trapped. I opened my laptop and began sketching ideas, not for Carter Family Builders, but for something entirely my own. I decided to start Horizon Sustainable Solutions, a consulting firm focused on sustainable construction, targeting small but meaningful projects like Olivia's. I wanted to help companies create green buildings that cut costs and genuinely impact their communities. No more Carter name, no family legacy, just me, Emma, armed with knowledge and passion. Our first project with Olivia was a community center in San Antonio. I threw myself into it like it was my last shot. I researched recycled materials, designed energy-saving systems, and found ways to trim costs without compromising on sustainability standards. Every night, I sat under my desk lamp, sketching, calculating, feeling like I was rediscovering who I was. When I presented the plan to the community board, they applauded enthusiastically. One member said, "Emma, you did what the big firms couldn't." That praise was like a cool breeze across the desert inside me. Horizon Sustainable Solutions wasn't just a company, it was proof that I didn't need the Carter name to build something worthwhile. I rebuilt not with cement or steel, but with resilience and belief in myself. Have you ever felt reborn after thinking it was all over? That's where I stood, and I knew I wasn't stopping. When Horizon Sustainable Solutions began to take off, I realized I didn't just want to build green buildings, I wanted to connect with others who had fallen as hard as I had. One late night in East Austin, with neon lights from the street spilling into my apartment, I opened Reddit, my usual escape via r/Austin, and posted in r/entrepreneur. I shared a short version of my story, being fired by my father over voicemail, losing the family legacy, and rebuilding from scratch with Horizon. I ended with a question. Have you ever had to start over from zero? How did you get through it? I didn't expect much, maybe a few comments. But the next morning, I was stunned. Hundreds of upvotes, dozens of responses. People shared their own stories of being fired, family betrayals, and personal collapse. One Redditor wrote, "Emma, you're living proof that rock bottom isn't the end. Thank you for sharing this." I started replying to every comment, offering tips on sustainable building and how to cope with failure. From there, I launched a small subreddit called r/Life After Betrayal, where people posted stories of betrayal, loss, and how they got back up. I shared lessons from therapy, how journaling helped me reclaim my identity, and tips for managing finances during a startup. That community became more than a place to share stories. It became a second family, where I found the empathy I'd lost for my real one. Reddit gave me a platform to turn pain into power, not just for me, but for thousands of others. Have you ever found light from strangers on the internet? I did, and it reminded me that sometimes the strongest connections come from the most unexpected places. / 1 year after the voicemail that shattered my world, I stood in a grand ballroom in Dallas, heart pounding as the spotlight lit up the stage. Horizon Sustainable Solutions had just been nominated at the Southwest Sustainable Building Awards for the Community Design Innovation category. The San Antonio Community Center, my first true passion project, had opened 2 months earlier, becoming a local hub with solar panels, a community garden, and energy-efficient design. When the MC announced, "And the winner is Horizon Sustainable Solutions. The entire room erupted in applause. I walked up to accept the glass trophy, feeling like the world wasn't just recognizing my work, but my resilience. As I looked out over the room, a small part of me still hoped to see my father or Liam, but they weren't there. Carter family builders had turned their backs on sustainability events, chasing after risky, flashy projects instead. Weeks later, a phone call from my mother gave me pause. "Emma, your father had a heart attack," she said, voice trembling. "He's stable, but he wants to see you." I drove to the hospital in Austin, emotions swirling, anger, anxiety, grief. My father, James, looked small on the hospital bed, surrounded by wires and tubes. When he looked at me, his eyes were full of regret. "Emma," he whispered, "I was wrong. I let fear of losing control cloud everything. Carter hasn't been Carter since you left." I didn't forgive him right then, but I listened. He admitted Victor Hayes had manipulated him, making him believe I wanted to take over the company. We talked about family, about mistakes that get passed down through generations. There was no teary hug, no dramatic reconciliation, but there was understanding. I left the hospital knowing I had forgiven, not him, but myself. Have you ever had to make peace with the person who once broke you? That's the first real step to being free. Standing at the new construction site in Austin, I watched the Horizon Sustainable Solutions team in hard hats, working under the Texas sun. From a girl shattered in a coffee shop, I had built a company, a community, and most importantly, a version of Emma stronger than ever. Losing Carter family builders wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Sometimes, you have to lose everything to discover who you truly are. I learned that legacy isn't in a family name, but in what you create, in the people you inspire. This journey was full of drama and tears, but it's proof that you can rise, even when the whole world turns its back on you. Now it's your turn. If you've ever been betrayed, hit rock bottom, or are rebuilding from scratch, share your story in the comments. I read every single one, and who knows, your story might inspire someone on Reddit or out there in the world. Don't forget to hit like if you think this drama was worth spilling the tea. And if you want more stories about resilience and turning pain into power, hit subscribe. Tap the bell so you won't miss the next video, because I've got more secrets to share. Thank you for coming with me on this crazy journey. Remember, when life tears down your foundation, it's your chance to build something more beautiful, more sustainable, exactly the way you deserve. //